Good afternoon and hello everyone, and thanks for joining us again on this webinar. Today we are pleased to have with us two intelligent warning system specialists from TAPCO who will be presenting the TAPCO flood system and the Overheight vehicle warning system. Their presentation should take approximately 30 minutes and will be followed by a question period at the end. If you have any questions during this presentation, please ensure to write them in the sidebar of the webinar under the question tab. Also, there will be a quiz during this presentation where you will have the chance to win cool prizes. During this quiz, you will be able to write your answer, also in the question section of the sidebar. Finally, this session will be recorded and we will be sending a copy of this recording to all attendees tomorrow. My name is Mike Mondor and I am an ITS Technical Account Manager for Quebec and Eastern Canada for Stinson ITS. Next slide, please. Now, let me introduce you to our two specialists from TAPCO who will be presenting the two products today. We have Roxanne Ashley, who is a TAPCO IWS specialist, and Alex Perry, who is TAPCO's IWS sales supervisor. Alex, it's all yours.
TAPCO has an excellent working relationship with Stinson as a partner in Canada. Stinson has been around for quite some time, operating across the entire country. Mike, do you want to elaborate on Stinson's engagement and how we can support clients within the Canadian market?
Yeah, sure. Let me present you Stinson ITS first. We have been in operation since 2015, and currently we employ a workforce of around 14 employees. We now have offices in several locations across Canada, in Ontario, Alberta, and Quebec since 2020. We are committed to the ongoing growth, utilization, and integration of intelligent transportation technologies to save lives and promote sustainability across Canada. We are proud to be partnered with the very best technology provider in the ITS arena to bring you exceptional product and services. This is why we have TAPCO with us here today to explain some of their systems. So now, without any further ado, I will let Roxanne and Alex introduce themselves and TAPCO. Alex, it's all yours.
Thank you, Mike. As Mike mentioned, we have a working relationship with Stinson. TAPCO is a Milwaukee-based organization with global involvement in safety solutions, providing ITS systems and supporting ITS systems across the world. I have been with TAPCO for approximately 5 years as the IWS sales specialist and sales specialist supervisor, working to support TAPCO's higher end, more technically involved offerings across our market. Specifically today, we're going to be talking about TAPCO's Overheight vehicle detection system, which I'll get into more detail on. And high water warning system, excuse me, I apologize. TAPCO's high water warning system is a method for detection of water as it enters the roadway, and offering drivers conspicuous warning signs and devices to alert them of plausible high water concerns. Allow Mike to speak to the nature of high water concerns and how that has affected our partners in Canada thus far.
Well, thank you, Alex. Like Alex just mentioned, and I mentioned also earlier, TAPCO is a very good partner with us, and today we're going to talk about two different systems. Like Alex just mentioned, the first one is going to be the high water warning systems, or sometimes we call it the flood system. Next slide, please. Thank you, Alex. We have all seen news reports about sudden floods affecting communities and safety on our roads. With the recent climate changes, floods will become an even bigger issue, even up here in Canada. As Canadians, we can all say that most provinces have been exposed to these in some form, whether they are on the coastline or far from it. Flash floods are both serious and dangerous. As an example, of course, the flood which affected British Columbia in 2021 caused the death of 5 people, and well over 7 billion in equipment and property damages. Several roads were closed during these events, and many vehicles were trapped in sudden rising waters. Flash floods can occur anywhere at any time. Alex will now be presenting the TAPCO's high water detection system, which can alert drivers of these drastic changes in road safety. Alex?
Thank you, Mike. As we know, water entering the roadway can be a massive concern for vehicles and motorists alike. As little as 12 inches of water can completely sweep away a vehicle, with only 6 inches of water causing probable concern for that vehicle just to lose control. Hydroplaning and concerns like that happen with very minimal water intrusion into the roadway, and it's difficult for a driver to discern how much water is on the road and thus the impact that they would have when engaging with those types of events. We see water-like concerns happening in multiple areas and multiple types of entry points to the roadway. Barrier islands, areas of inadequate flooding, underpasses and overpasses, any low-lying condition along the roadway is a potential high water hazard. These areas not only cause vehicular damage and are maintenance concerns for those that are managing infrastructure, but owning some of these areas within your municipality offers limited EMS response time, limited response time from law enforcement. There's costs associated and maintenance associated to the deployment of static measures like traffic cones and gates. And oftentimes we're seeing municipalities hit with higher insurance rates trying to manage the events that occur specifically in these areas. To offset some of these concerns, TAPCO has developed a mitigation tool we call our high water warning system. These warning systems are countermeasures that can work conjunctively with cones, gates, barriers, and static measures like that, but also operate as isolated, conspicuous warning systems that work autonomously to alert drivers of water entering the roadway and a plausible concern for them as they engage with those types of events. They can also include automated gate arms and other advanced features that further mitigate drivers from entering areas of high water concern. These systems are completely customizable, allowing the deployment of a sensor right-sized to the specific application, working in both fresh and salt water with adjustable water levels associated to them. We can make sure that we're concerning ourselves with detection of water entering a roadway specific to what is the municipality's direct concern. And we can work within the confines of whatever price is best discerned for that particular project. These systems are right-sized to fit the needs of the municipality and make sure that we're addressing the concerns that are most important to that particular end user. TAPCO's high water warning system is generally comprised of 2 separate pole types, as both a warning portion of the system and a detection portion of the system. As you can see in the graphic to the right, there is 1 pole generally stationed at the area of water intrusion to the roadway. This particular pole will have a sensor on it and be either powered via a solar panel and solar engine or available AC power. Communication from that pole to the associated warning poles will be done via either a hardwire communication or the available TAPCO 900 megahertz frequency hopping radio. That radio trigger will illuminate warning signs that alert the driver specifically that they're entering an area of concern. Road made flood warning or warning messages will be displayed on those signs, or any particular type of warning message that would be pertinent to that area of concern. TAPCO has the ability to offer fully customized signs displaying any warning message that would be pertinent to your particular use case. In further detail for these poles and the way that the system is laid out, we were able to show a little bit more about the infrastructure layout. As I mentioned, there is at least one alert pole or warning pole associated to the system, and at least one detection pole associated to the system. Typically, TAPCO manages entry to that area of high water concern from multiple points and multiple angles. We know that a single road may have at least 2 entry points to that area of concern, but oftentimes municipalities are dealing with detection of a low-lying area with multiple inlets. And via the 900 megahertz radio network TAPCO provisions our system with, we can activate multiple warning poles without concern, managing every inlet to an area and mitigating drivers from entering hazardous conditions. TAPCO's sensor is housed in a flexibly deployable housing with a telescopic arm, stakes for mounting within the ground, and a fully enclosed container. This layout specifically allows us to manage water concerns at varying heights along the roadway, able to detect water at whatever the concern level happens to be for that particular municipality. Oftentimes we're detecting water right alongside the roadway, but in some unique cases, we can understand based on trends and data and historical understanding of events that water of a certain height concern at a low-lying area adjacent to the roadway may be cause for the water to subsequently enter the roadway or cause other outlying concerns. And our ability to flexibly mount poles wherever that concern happens to be at varying heights and in varying layouts is giving us cause for early warning, giving us the ability to detect water as our earliest option to make sure that we're responding accurately to events as they occur. TAPCO has 3 variations of our sensor for detecting water as it enters a roadway or as it enters our housing on our system. First, we have a photoelectric optical sensor, but we also offer a pressure float sensor and then the isolated float sensor. A little more detail regarding these sensors. With our photoelectric sensor, we're able to measure the refraction of light as it enters the water, as it is under the water, and seeing that increased refraction of that light will trigger the system. This system is subject to some salinity from salt water, so it's best used in freshwater situations where any salt caking or developing on that sensor will be minimized. Additionally, we also have options specifically allocated for salt water using a mechanical float switch. And to address concerns regarding freezing or ice damming, TAPCO is able to use pressure switch options that help understand the variable pressure associated to water entering a chamber, and they work best in cold water climates that can work for salt water or fresh water all the same. Also help mitigate concerns regarding contamination of water, if there should be debris or other things that accumulate within the system as well. Rightsizing our technology will use any one of these or a combination of these sensors to make sure that we're allocating a system best served for your particular project, addressing concerns both maintaining accurate and actionable detection, but also environmental factors that could compromise the system. Available with TAPCO system are a myriad of enhancements, specifically the ability to remotely activate and monitor these systems via connectivity where applicable. We're interested in understanding the agency's adoption of this technology, and we would welcome a conversation regarding how to make this system as actionable and reliable as possible for those that aren't necessarily along the roadway. We want it to be able to be managed remotely when possible, and to be able to offer guidance about how the system is performing in its best possible state. This can be done via TAPCO's proprietary BlinkLink software or with integration into existing IT infrastructure that may be deployed within the municipality. Additionally, cameras and illuminators can offer visualization of these events, offering not only just pictures, but also casting light onto the images to make sure that we're seeing accurate depictions of what the continued change for high water looks like as that event progresses and as rains and other things continue to accumulate. Lastly, we're able to integrate all of TAPCO systems into connected vehicle infrastructure. We do this by offering an intermediary device that would communicate from our 900 megahertz radio out to a roadside unit should one be deployed. This simple add-on allows for conspicuous warnings associated to high water and other events to be displayed directly in the infotainment system inside of that vehicle.
Well, thank you, Alex. That was very interesting and informative. I'm sure that this product introduction has drawn attention from many, and that question will surely arise on this system. Now, I hope everyone listened, because we're now at our quiz time, quiz question period. So before we proceed to our next system, we will have our quiz questions. Once you have the answer, please make sure to write it in the question pane in the right of your screen. Samantha will monitor and announce the winner as soon as she sees a winning question. Samantha and the participant, of course, will win everything that you see on the screen. So here's the question. How many sensor types does TAPCO offer for high water detection? I'll repeat, how many sensor type does TAPCO offer for high water detection? Is it A, B, C, or D?
We almost immediately had the correct answer even before the options were up, so great job. Everyone is paying attention. Raja, you were the first one to answer correctly, so I will contact you afterwards to get your shipping information.
Thank you, Samantha. Alex, can you switch to the next slide, please? Thank you. Now let's talk about our second and last system for today, which is the Overheight vehicle detection system. Next slide, please, Alex. Bridge collisions happen on a regular basis and can unfortunately cost lives and huge bridge repair costs. Recently, in Langley, BC, a truck carrying heavy machinery stuck an overpass and sent 2 people to the hospital. In April 2018, a truck carrying grain was traveling on Highway 40 in a rural town in Quebec and hit a pedestrian overhead bridge. Fortunately, no one was injured in that one as well. February 2016, another truck hit a bridge structure on a major access road to Montreal, causing major damage to that structure. These incidents all could have been prevented and thousands of dollars could have been saved. Roxanne will now explain how the TAPCO Overheight system can help protect lives while preventing expensive overhead structures repairs. Roxanne?
Thanks, Mike. Absolutely. So my name is Roxanne Heschley. I am the Intelligent Warning System Sales Specialist here at TAPCO. So I have oversight on both of these particular product lines. So if you had a project that you were working with either Overheight or flood, I would be involved in some way. So I'd love to walk you through the Overheight system to hopefully provide solutions for these issues that you've been having. So, of course, we realize that there is a problem with exactly everything that Mike just walked you through. Currently here In the US, we have about 10,000 annual bridge impacts nationally on a year-to-year basis. We do have over 600,000 bridges here currently registered, whereas I believe you have just shy of about 52,000 publicly registered there in Canada. 30 of our states have recognized bridge impacts as a major problem, but of course, overheight impacts are a global issue. Of course, there's bridges everywhere, really causing an issue with repair costs, which could be anywhere from $300,000 to $500,000 on average. The reason being is that about roughly 40% of truck drivers that we had surveyed had admitted to not knowing the specific height of their own truckload. So, a lot of them are using passenger-based off-the-shelf navigation systems, not super familiar with them or how to utilize them. Lack of route planning. They may have oversized loads and equipment that weren't properly secured and they could have shifted during their travel. And sometimes they're just merely distracted. So especially if they're not paying attention to the height limit warning signs, or if they take the same route repetitively, sometimes those static signs can just become white noise. Or maybe they're just unfamiliar with the route geography and the structures in general. But this could cause major impact consequences. So of course, the most important is injury or loss of life to either the driver or the nearby motorists. The damage to the infrastructure, like we discussed, the interruption of commerce, which now that truck is missing their deadlines for delivery, increasing shipping costs, we're delaying the travel times, wasting fuel, money, resources. Of course, the local evacuations that are required. So if those trucks are carrying hazardous or harmful substances that are released during the impact, then that creates, of course, a new issue all in its own. The company and driver fines that come along with it, and then of course the increases in insurance premiums, and then the costs of those goods. TAPCO's preventative measure is our overheight warning system with either flashing blinker signs or blinker beacons. So 73% of the states here that have installed an overheight detection system have seen a reduction in the frequency of their infrastructure strikes. So the photo example that you see off to the right, where this is a flashing blinker sign, where it reads, of course, the height of the upcoming bridge or structure. And it also specifically highlights overheight when flashing. So these could replace existing static signage that you already have in place. It would enhance the conspicuity of the sign itself. And we do also offer additional signage that can be deployed ahead of an exit route to be able to direct and deliver an alternate route to safely travel away from that bridge. So our single pole systems look just as you see over to this diagram on the right. The components would include a power source, so we can either provide it via solar power or directly to AC. The overheight detection sensor, which is number 2, I'll highlight that on the next slide for you. The next one down is the high-speed, high-definition camera that can be deployed to monitor the instances as they occur. The supporting white LED illuminator really helps to highlight that camera system if deployed in nighttime conditions. The next down is, of course, that LED enhanced warning device, whether we utilize a blinker sign or blinker beacons. And then at the bottom there is the TAPCO controller assembly, where, of course, the brains of the system are housed. So we utilize a dual beam configured overheight infrared sensor. So it does provide directional logic. So the vehicle would need to break the beam directionally, so one before the other, in order for it to trigger the system. So that really reduces the false triggers that could be deployed with, potentially a single beam sensor. It does offer multi-lane compatibility, so you can actually deploy these on highway applications as well. It offers 150 feet of range between them. It does utilize 12-volt power. It is solar capable, as we mentioned before. The adjustable sensor sensitivity is customizable, as is the detection height. So of course we can utilize this at any height that is needed for your particular project. The ideal speed limits are at or below 85 miles per hour. So again, available all the way up to those highway applications. It does have a 2-inch window for accurate detection, and it does have built-in lens heaters to prevent condensation or icing in those cold weather scenarios. Now, of course, we want to right size the sensor to the application. So sometimes that dual directional is not what you would need. So in other instances or projects such as parking garages or maybe off-road closed applications, a lot of private industry, sometimes we just utilize a single beam sensor because you don't necessarily need to know which direction the vehicle is going. So again, completely customizable to whatever project you would need. So this gives you a good overview of how the system would look deployed on a roadway. It does offer the single beam sensor where you see the truck going through, where that is set further back from the warning sign, which you'll see there. They deployed a double blinker beacon along with in directional signage beneath the specification of how high the upcoming bridge is. So it does direct them in that correction zone to the right to hopefully see that sign and then exit off the roadway before they approach the bridge. Now, many times we will also offer a confirmation zone with an additional system to really confirm that either the truck continued on for whatever reason or just for your own knowledge and data collection to confirm any repeat offenders. We do have multiple, like I mentioned, customizable abilities with this system. So the very basic of the system of our system options is our 24/7 or dusk to dawn application, which is the LED enhanced treatment or warning sign. Does offer limited deterrent capabilities, but it doesn't offer any connection or interaction necessarily with the driver. Then we also offer the activated alert system. So that's really where we've been discussing thus far. So that's that entry-level overheight detection solution with the dual beam infrared sensor technology. It will activate based on a driver's presence and break of that beam. But then we also offer connected systems as well. So would offer visual event alerting. That BlinkLink software system that Alex had mentioned earlier does offer the ability to add on to this particular system. So you are able to get all of the vehicle details of anyone who has, of course, approached that bridge or needed to route correct. It does offer the time and location of the event, and it also offer the system health and diagnostics. There are many ways, like I mentioned, to deploy these systems. So not just those public roadways where you'll have a bridge overpass or maybe a railway crossing, but also private industry. So maybe industrial campuses or parking garages, airports. And then there are many system enhancements, very similar to what Alex had mentioned before with the connected vehicle interface. It can actually alert the driver from inside the vehicle. So really removes all ability for them to not see the upcoming obstruction if they're getting the alert inside their vehicle. It does offer overview cameras, license plate recognition, dynamic message board. So specifically customizing your message to the drivers on a mast arm overhead, and also audible sirens to alert the drivers via an audio signal, either a siren or something to alert them. The TAPCO Advantage is really a turnkey experience. So from design to manufacturing and installation, you have constant support. You have a very large team behind you and a lot of experience. So each system is completely customizable. It's customized to each location. It's designed to meet your specific needs. We'll come check out each specific location before deployment. So make sure that we have information on the sensor location, the activation height that's needed, pole locations, system turn on support. So TAPCO will actually deploy a specific team to come and offer on-site support for installation as well. that is it for Overheight. Does anyone have any questions?
Well, thank you, Roxanne. That was very, very informative. Like Roxanne just mentioned, it is now time for our question period. And please note that if we don't have sufficient time today, but I believe we will have sufficient time to answer all the questions, we will make sure to answer them by email after this presentation. So if we don't get to answer your question, we will ensure that you get an answer to it. Sam, I see that we have several questions that came in already. So can you please read the first one, and I'll let either Roxanne or Alex answer these questions.
Yeah, definitely. Someone asked, what water height will trigger the alert?
Excellent question. That's entirely customizable. The sensor housing and the flexible telescopic arm allow for us to physically set that sensor at whatever height we deem appropriate on the pole. So as little as an inch or several centimeters off of the ground, as high as multiple feet or meters. If the pole has that real estate available to us, we can set the sensor appropriately along any height of the pole.
Someone asked, is there a way to offset the detection pole so that it is not in the flood path?
Another excellent question. Yes, if we can put that pole on an adequate foundation or appropriate anchor, we can put it anywhere. In some instances, we put it into a low-lying field adjacent to the roadway, knowing that water would develop within that field. And then that is already an early warning set for us, or a concern. If water is rising in that area, then we will activate warning signs along the roadway, alerting drivers as early as possible that an event or road may flood condition exists.
Powered system and the flooding is caused by excessive rainfall or bad weather. How long will the system continue to work with limited sunshine?
We can solar size or add uninterruptible power supplies, however appropriate towards your agency's needs. In some cases, we've given our systems backed up of autonomy of roughly 7 days, but we will solar size and build that battery backup as appropriate for what we need within the confines of your project. We'd be interested in understanding if there's any existing requirements for us to size against. Otherwise, making a recommendation for several days of autonomy, making sure that one, should there be a continued event, that would be something surmountable to contend with, or two, to make sure that we're not limiting the solar charge prior to an event. Making sure we address both of those things equally, we'll add battery backup as necessary.
And similarly, someone asked, does the sustained level of high water at a sensor affect how long the system will continue to work?
Not necessarily, provided the battery backup and that autonomy is considered. The system will remain triggered while water is present and interacting with the sensor. The duration of how long it will stay flashing is largely contingent on the available battery backup or the autonomy of the system. And again, we'll size that accordingly to make sure that we would have, should we have a sustained event, even lasting several days, that the system would be able to stay flashing and continue to alert drivers of that event.
Someone asked, what is the top/bottom end of reduction in collision frequency? I believe for Overheight.
For top/bottom reduction, I'm going to interpret that question in the best possible way, and I welcome any clarification. But typically, we see that there is a significant increase in the driver's awareness that they are the offending vehicle. So as low as a 30% reduction in events, but in most cases, significantly higher. So upwards to 99% of drivers are now aware that they are an offending vehicle. The uniqueness of producing a system like this and deploying it along the roadway is that it creates a novel warning to drivers as they interact with the system, as opposed to static signs that display the same message again and again, regardless of whether that driver happens to be Overheight or not. triggering events and adding conspicuous signage, in some cases even audible alarms and additional visualizations to the driver that they are offending, creates a novelty effect where things are activated that previously weren't, and drivers historically respond very, very well to those activations.
For the overheight detection, is there a dynamic message system to notify road users of being overheight? If 40% of the truck drivers don't know the height of their load, then just the flashers seem unideal.
We can work within a dynamic message system that may already be in deployment, or we can work through our partners that in TAPCO's partner company, Adaptive Microsystems, to provision a dynamic message system that would be appropriate for that particular use case. TAPCO's system is able to offer a contact out trigger to various types of DMS controllers, and then canned messages can be displayed upon receiving that trigger. If there is a more developed integration that is sought after between TAPCO and Stinson ITS engineering resources, we're definitely able to meet the needs of more complex system logic.
Similarly, someone asked, would Stinson/TAPCO be able to work with a design build type of proposal for an overheight system installation?
Absolutely. It's very common for our internal engineering resources to engage in a design build fashion very early on, offering guidance about where we would suggest sensors to be deployed and the connectivity and strategy for laying out those devices along the roadway. One of the things TAPCO does a great deal of is offering guidance, not necessarily just so we have the signs flashing and the sensors detecting, but making sure that where they're laid out is in the best possible way from a motorist perspective to engage with our system, and for an end user's perspective to make sure that the system isn't simply just triggered, but offering that true mitigation of events. So in an overheight vehicle concern, where do we put this system so that it is producing a way out kind of maneuver for a driver so that they properly leave the roadway of concern, and so that an agency can understand whether that was a mitigated event or that driver continued on and struck the bridge, and being able to respond accordingly to various ways people can continue on through the system.
Someone asked, what is the cost of an overheight detection system?
Depending on the number of approaches, depending on some outlying variables, we've seen systems in the rough $50,000 to $60,000 US dollar mark. I'll look for Stinson to offer the translation there to how that is being presented in the Canadian market, but typically so. These systems do have a reasonable dollar amount associated to them and give us more cost to making sure that we're relaying them out in the best possible way with the most collaborative guidance from both Stinson and TAPCO. Our goal is to make sure that we're working with the right size solution that's going to be minimally viable for your particular use case, and making sure that we're addressing the concerns you have with the smartest set of hardware that's available to us.
Is there a similar warning system available for frozen or icy roads?
Yes, there is. TAPCO does have the ability to offer icy road detection, as it would very much operate in the same system layout, design, and logic as what you see with our high water warning system. We'll be utilizing a separate sensor specifically measuring the probability or likelihood of ice being along the roadway. We can certainly take that information from you should there be a project of interest, and share additional data sheets and system information. Please reach out to TAPCO and Stinson for more information on that.
The person who asked about the location of the pole in the flood path wants to know if the detection unit can be separated from the pole and installed on an embankment, under a bridge or within a culvert, for instance.
Yes, if there's a particular area that we're looking to mount a sensor to, we can remove the pole entirely from the equation if necessary. We need to have something to fix that sensor onto, walls, embankments, or what have you, as long as it's sturdy and allows us to run flexible conduit from that sensor back to a controller that has the available TAPCO radio or comms out to the warning poles, then we can work within the confines of all that. If there's a particular use case that you're identifying, please share that information with us and we'll happily pull together a project-specific meeting to discuss further.
For the Overheight system, if you have a 3-lane plus highway, how can the system target a specific Overheight truck within that cross section and not alarm the rest of the travelers?
If we're able to, in those particular instances, we may be able to work with an alternative sensor that we could get into on a project-specific basis, or look at a layout where we're identifying pole placement specific to an individual lane of travel. So if we can put the sensors within a median or some available division between lanes, then we'll directionally pick up traffic moving in a particular manner towards the obstruction within only that particular lane. Again, if as a project-specific concern, such as individual lane detection, there's likely an option that TAPCO has within our arsenal, having years and years of ITS experience here and offering consultation to the DOT in the United States across all 50 states. We could just have to identify what all those concerns are and work through it in a project-specific meeting. I welcome the conversation.
Someone asks, for the bridge detection system, how much is the sensor reliability reduced by poor weather conditions like heavy rain or snow?
Very minimally. Should the sensor be stabilized and allocated in with minimal deflection so that the sensor is not oscillating back and forth during some of those conditions, then the true rain and snow don't affect the infrared beam as it transmits from sensor to sensor. We have shielding along the sensor as well as heaters to make sure that we're operating within those environmental conditions.
So that does look like the last question, and we are out of time. If you have any questions that come up afterwards, our contact information will be in the slide, and you can just email us. We will be emailing the slide deck out to everyone tomorrow.
Thank you, Sam. And thank you, Alex and Roxanne, for answering to these questions. And thank you very much to everyone for asking these questions. These were very good questions and answers were very informative. Alex, can you switch to the next slide, please? And now I would like to take this opportunity to thank Roxanne and Alex, who brought a lot of great information and made this presentation very informative on these two systems. And I'm sure that we all learned a lot about these systems today. Now, I would like to announce our next webinar that will present the next generation radar science. It will be hosted by Brian Barg, our Ontario account manager, and will be held on October 5th at 1 p.m. We hope to see you then. So once again, I'd like to thank everyone for attending this webinar, and I would like to thank Roxanne and Alex for assisting us in that webinar. Can you switch to the next slide, Alex, please? And thank you very much. Like Sam was saying, these are our contacts. If you ever need to reach us, I mean, if you have any additional questions, please do not hesitate to contact us. Once again, thank you very much and have a great afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you for having us.